Govinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachanam pangum langate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinataranam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we'll do a quick recap in terms of where we are, how did we arrive to the point that we will start with, and I'll just take help from you in terms of doing the recap. So the fifth chapter begins with a question from Arjun. Does anybody remember what the question was? So the question is similar to the question that Arjun asks at the beginning of the third chapter. So does anybody remember what the question was? Okay.
What are my duties? He was asking him, what are his rightfully duties?
What are my duties? That's close.
Which is good with the karma or Gyan?
Very good. Very good. So in the context of what his duties are, he is trying to find out what is better, karma or Gyan. So very similar question between the third and the fifth chapter, but we also noticed that there was a subtle difference between the question. And does anybody remember what the difference was?
Difference, yeah. This time it says do karma because now he wants to say like it's important as per this situation. So that's how Krishna explained to Arjuna. Before it was just introductory part of karma or something like that, but at this point of time it says like do karma. Though those are similar, but still for this point of time it's karma is needed.
Okay. Some more details?
Mood of Arjuna is different.
How is it different?
Third chapter, Arjuna is telling Krishna that you're confusing me by your equivocal words, and in this chapter, is trying to clarify in a more submissive way.
Good. So that's the big difference that in the third chapter, Arjun is actually trying to. He says Krishna that why are you engaging me in this ghastly warfare? So he has this sense that Krishna is misdirecting him, at least for the purpose of the conversation. He's saying that if you think that karma is better, if you think Gyan is better than karma, then why do you want to engage in this ghastly warfare in which I would have to kill my teacher, my grandfather, my relatives? In the fifth chapter he says, can you please tell me what is more beneficial for me? Same question but different mood. He has developed more faith in Krishna as one who can guide him to where he wants. The relationship with the Guru is very it's very dependent on both the Guru and the disciple. So a person who is vastly learned, who may be very pious, may not be a good Guru for a disciple whose mood is a little different. So when a Guru-disciple relationship is established, the most important thing is to see that what is the compatibility between the two. Prabhupada would give an example with even analogy that is almost like getting married. That there are so many men and there are so many women, but it does not mean that if a man is strong, or if a woman is beautiful, or a man is rich and a woman has a lot of talents, that they would become a good couple. The woman has to be right for the man has to be right for the woman. So Krishna is of course the perfect guru. He is the personality of Godhead, and Arjuna is fully submitted. Right at the beginning, he says that I am a soul that is fully surrendered to you. But yet we see that this relationship grows as Krishna gives more and more instructions to Arjuna, that Arjuna is able to internalize and have the faith to convert into actionable items. We see that the relationship grows deeper and deeper. And this is very important, because ultimately what the Guru tells the disciple is things that are not really empirically verifiable. Earlier on, Krishna tells Arjuna things that you can verify, or you can try it out. But later on, he tells Arjuna things that Arjuna has to accept on faith. So that faith is very, very important. That when the Guru says do this, the disciple says that this is what is best for me. And we see that mood between Krishna and Arjuna continues to deepen and deepen and deepen, till you see in the 11th chapter, where Arjuna is my obeisances to you from behind and from front, and all glories unto you. So where his love for Krishna completely overflows, and you can see in the words that Arjuna uses to glorify Krishna, and that leads to the 12th chapter. The 12th chapter is one of the most special chapters in the Bhagavad Gita. It's titled the Most Confidential Knowledge. And when Arjuna's heart is completely open towards Krishna, then Krishna gives him the most confidential knowledge. Similarly, when we have developed a relationship with our Guru, it's not necessary that the Guru will tell everything that he knows. It's not necessary that the Guru will tell us everything that we ask for. The transfer of information will be depending on how much can we take and what does the situation mandate. And as the relationship deepens, then so do the realization of the disciple deepen, and so does the sharing from the spiritual master deepen. So that's one nuance that we see beginning to manifest in the 5th chapter, and continues to deepen after that. So what does Krishna answer to Arjuna's question, that what is better, karma or gyan? What is more beneficial to me? So I know you have all the answers. So when you don't know the answer, then raise your hand. So, but I just want to hear from other people also. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Sure.
Okay. What is Krishna's answer to Arjuna's question? That what is more beneficial for me, karma or gyan?
He says both are important, but if one has to choose, then karma.
Very good, very good. So Krishna gives this answer that what's the verse? Ekam jnanam cha yogam cha yah pashyati sa pashyati. So they are the same, and yah pashyati sa pashyati. And then he says, but better than giving up of work is performing of activities. So, and then we had a little bit of discussion on what does actually it means when Krishna makes statements like they are the same but this is better. Right? There's a little bit of ambiguity over there. They can either be same or better. They can't be both. So Krishna says that karma and jnana are the same, but karma is better. So how do we understand this apparent contradiction? Sachin?
So with Gyan, if someone does karma, then that means that means both effect will be good or better. So that's how I think.
Okay, that's good. Any other thoughts?
Propensity of the person.
Propensity of the person? Yes? Avinash?
I think this way, that they are interdependent on each other, karma as well as jnana. If you have jnana, you can do karma. You cannot do karma unless you have jnana yet. Everybody's life doesn't matter right now.
Right.
And but at that stage of the game, when Arjuna was going to have a fight, at that stage of his life, karma was more important than jnana.
Right, very good. So, so those were the different aspects.
Yeah, it has any.
So those are the different aspects of how Krishna explains to Arjuna that it's the same but yet different. So it's the same because they are both needed. It's different because one is more appropriate to a particular circumstance. So at that particular time, the need of the hour, not just in terms of the fact that Arjuna was standing on a battlefield, but the need of the hour in terms of Arjuna's levels of realization was that he needs to perform activity. Because remember, in the 3rd chapter, Krishna went through this very laborious process of reasoning of why karma is needed. It's needed to engage the senses, it's needed to sustain yourself. Karma is the way by which you can purify yourself. So Krishna has given Arjuna all the reason, and then in the 4th chapter he says, but Jnana is better. But then he talks about a different class of people. People who have completely controlled their senses, people who have performed karma to the point of perfection, where they are no longer dependent on karma for the engagement of the senses or for the satisfaction of their desires. But Arjuna is not at that point right now. So if karma was always better than Jnana, then Krishna would not even give the path of Jnana. He would just say, do karma. Right? But he's giving karma because depending on the propensity of a person, karma is important. And also, like Avinash Prabhu said, that karma nourishes Jnana and Jnana nourishes karma. So the two complement and strengthen one another. In the 2nd chapter, Purport Srila Prabhupada says that if you do activities without understanding why you're doing it, what are they? They are rituals. If you have the understanding of what needs to be done, but don't do the activity corresponding to it, then you're a mental speculator. So both have to go hand in hand. You need to know why you are doing, and once you know, you should do it. So both of them should go hand in hand. So this is the point that Krishna is making. They are the same, but at this point, karma is what you should do. So you have a question?
No.
Okay.
Can I give a good example?
Yeah,
Like
please.
a doctor who's going to do a surgery, until he doesn't have jnana, he cannot do the surgery. So he has to have that thing before he can do surgery.
Right. So following this, Krishna he instructs Arjuna on karma on the platform of Jnana. So even though he has said karma is better than Jnana, he is not saying to Arjuna that Jnana is irrelevant, that you don't worry about Jnana. He is collating the two. He said between the two, karma is more important. So perform karma on the platform of Jnana. So what is karma on the platform of Jnana? On platform of real knowledge, what is karma? What does it become? Nishkam karma. Right? See, if we do not have the knowledge, if we simply do activities, then we will do it with two conceptions. What are the two conceptions? I am the doer and I am the enjoyer. These are the two conceptions. That bhogi aham, aham Ishwar. That every activity that I am doing it for myself, and I am actually the all in all, the controller of this activity. In the 16th chapter, Krishna says this verse to define, make a distinction between the divine and the demoniac mentalities. So he said one who has a demoniac mentality works with this conception that every activity that they do, they'll say, Bhogi aham aham ishvaro, siddho aham balvan sukhi. So they think that they have these 5 characteristics. I am there to enjoy, Ishwar, I am the all in all, Siddho, I am perfect, Balwan, I am stronger than everybody, I will eventually defeat everybody, and Sukhi, that I am happy. So Krishna now, he is instructing Arjuna to perform activities on the platform of knowledge. Now this is the 5th chapter, and this is the 4th time that Krishna is instructing Arjuna on Nishkam Karma. Beginning from the 2nd chapter, in every chapter, Krishna has instructed Arjuna on Nishkam Karma, but again the nuance has changed. So in the earlier chapter, Krishna is instructing Arjuna about what is known as Gyan Ashrit Nishkam. So you perform Nishkam Karma with this understanding that you are not the body but the soul. So this is Sankhya. Sankhya is analytical. So when you know you're not the body, you're the soul, then everything related to the body becomes secondary. How I nourish my body, how my body enjoys, how the senses engage, they become secondary. So when you perform activities, you're not performing them on a body platform. You're not the enjoyer, not the doer, because you're not the body. The body is doing, the body is enjoying, you're not the body. So this is Gyan Ashrit, Nishkam. In the 5th chapter, Krishna is steering Arjuna towards Bhakti Ashrit Nishkam. So Bhakti Ashrit Nishkam is that I am not the doer, Krishna is the doer. So in the first case, you detach yourself from the material conception. In the second case, you attach yourself to the spiritual conception. So there is a difference in the consciousness, even though symptomatically they are the same. The person does the work without any attachment, without any desire for enjoyment. In the first case, he does it with this understanding that I am a spirit soul. In the second case, he does it with the understanding I am a spirit soul subservient to Krishna. So whatever that I am doing is for the pleasure of Krishna. Rupa Goswami has this verse in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anashaktasya Vishayan Yathartham Upayunjata Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, where Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. So he describes the mood of a devotee, that Yathartham Vishayan, that the whole material world, Yathartham Vishayan, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. That whatever activities that you do, Nirbandh, that means you don't get attached to it, Krishna Sambandhe. You do it in relationship to Krishna. Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. So this is known as Yukta Vairagya. The Yukta Vairagya is the secret recipe of devotional service. That when you do bhakti, then you don't give up anything. But whatever you do it in Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, in relationship to Krishna. That if you cook nice feast, you offer it to Krishna with the understanding that this is for the enjoyment of the deities, and then you honor the remnants of that. So you may still end up eating good sumptuous meals, but you're really eating what the deities have enjoyed, right? So whether you eat sumptuous food, you live in a good house. Srila Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was a sannyasi, of course, and once he was called for a sabha of sadhus, and he came in a Rolls Royce. The prince of that state, so this is the 1930s, the prince of that state, he sent his car for Bhaktisiddhanta just out of respect. He did not expect him to take it, because sannyasis tend to be very simple. They tend to not use machines and all that. But Bhaktisiddhanta came in a Rolls Royce, and he went there, and of course he spoke, and his understanding was that whatever that I am using, if I can use to increase somebody's faith in Krishna, if I can use to attract more people towards Krishna, then it automatically becomes an item of devotional service. Once somebody showed Srila Prabhupada the picture in a newspaper. There was a person with a plate, and the plate was full of money, and he was offering it to a person who was like in saffron clothes, like a mendicant, and the person had his hand behind his back, and the caption said that this renunciant wants nothing to do with money. And Prabhupada looked at the picture and he laughed and he said, if somebody gave me a plate full of money, I would take it all and use it in Krishna's service. So that is the mood of Yuktam Vairagya. The opposite of that, which is the next word, Prapanchikittaya buddhiya hari sambandhi vastunaha mokshubhi parityago yuktam falgu kathyate. So there is yukt vairagya and there is falgu vairagya. So falgu is false vairagya, it's markat vairagya. The example Prabhupada gives is like monkey. Monkey sits and looks, very calm and like a renounced person. Somebody going with a banana, then he runs and steals the banana. He eats the banana, then he'll again sit like a very renounced person. So while he's sitting, all his senses are very active. He's looking for the next opportunity to engage the senses. So Rupa Goswami says that a person who renounces everything without understanding what is its relationship with Krishna is vairagyam falgu kathiyate. That is falgu vairagya. One of the jokes amongst devotees is that I'm so renounced that I've renounced renunciation. So you see somebody, somebody may be eating like a sumptuous meal, and say, devotees are supposed to eat simple food. Say, yeah, but I'm so renounced that and I've renounced renunciation. So, yes, Prabhu?
Here I understood that Iksavaragya is related to the spiritual attachment, like Bhakti, Ashrita, Nishkama. But one reason that Krishna is steering Arjuna towards Bhakti, Ashrita, Nishkama from Jnana Ashrita is it is easier to perform. But other than that, is there any higher reason? I could not exactly get that.
Well, if you see Bhagavad Gita, Krishna takes all of us ultimately towards bhakti.
Can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear it.
So the question was that why is Krishna guiding Arjun from Jnana Ashrit Niskam to Bhakti Ashrit Niskam? So it's because that's where Krishna wants all of us to ultimately go. He wants to, he'll demonstrate it. Right now he's putting it over there. Later on he'll demonstrate it, that how bhakti is far superior to all the other paths. But before, it's like before he, and Krishna does that, we'll see later on in the chapter, that he'll put Astanga Yoga, a few verses, and then he expands on it later on. So he's putting the notion of bhakti in over here, and then later on he'll expand bhakti from beginning from the 7th chapter all the way till the 12th chapter. He'll expand only on the topic of bhakti. Yeah? Questions? Yes, Raksha?
Just thinking about Ravi Prabhu's questions, is it also because material detachment over time loses its
soul is that it needs to engage. So if you disengage, it's definitely a step in the right direction, but it's a means to an end rather than an end in itself. If you disengage without re-engaging, then eventually your senses will re-engage back in the material realm. And that's why Krishna wants to make sure that while he is disengaging Arjuna from the material conception, he starts giving him the spiritual conception so that he can re-engage his senses. Yeah. Okay. So after talking about Nishkam karma, then Krishna, he talks about, briefly, he introduces the topic of who is doing all this activity. He says, I've been talking about karma, but who's the karyata? Who is the doer? And does anybody remember who does Krishna say is the doer? The modes of material nature. So Krishna makes this point that everything that is being done is done by the modes of material nature. He negates two other entities that one may consider to be as possible candidates for being the doers. What are the two entities that he negates? Who? So Krishna negates himself, and who is the other entity that Krishna negates? The soul. Right. So he says. So Krishna says, I have nothing to do with all these activities that's going on. And in fact, he's pretty heavy. He says, people who think I have anything to do with it, their intelligence is questionable. So he's calling them people of limited intelligence. And then he also says that the soul has nothing to do. He said the soul does not act, it does not inspire others to act, it does not enjoy the results of the activity, and it no way is connected to the activity. So he's making this clear distinction. The soul does not act, and Krishna himself does not act.
As you said that the soul is not doing anything, the three modes of nature makes a person to react or act in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we say that because a person is suffering because of his last life karma or this life karma, and due to that he is having this kind of life, or so as you said that.
Yeah. So the question is that if the soul is not acting, then why is the soul suffering the results of what is being done by the modes of material nature? Right? So if the same explanation you take it to the next step, the soul never enjoys or suffers in the material world. It's the modes of material nature that enjoy and suffer. Right from the second chapter, Krishna says this whole duality in the material world is coming because of the engagement of the material senses with the material object of the senses. So the point that he makes is that when you are established in the notion of the soul, then you will make this distinction. And we were using this analogy last time, is that if you go and like watch a really scary movie, right? You have nothing to do with the movie, but the more you get absorbed in the movie, the more you will feel fear or anger or whatever as part of the movie. It's completely your choice. You're sitting in a movie and you may say that it's just a movie. It's just a bunch of images on a screen, and then you know nothing affects you. Or you can, I remember when we were earlier on married and we were watching a movie, and then I was shocked that, and Indulekha was like crying. So some sad movie, and she was crying and crying and crying. And I was like, it's just a movie, why are you crying? And, but maybe it's a gender thing. I never get involved like in the movies per se. But it was very difficult, at least for me, to comprehend that somebody can, get so much involved in a movie that while that person is crying, the person is also crying at the same time. But that's how we see in the material world, that we associate ourselves with our body so much that as our body feels, so we feel. But it's our choice. If we don't, then there is actually no there is no hard connection between, because the soul is spirit and the body is matter.
Because Maya is covered as such a way that we feel that the body is doing everything, not the...
Absolutely, absolutely. And more than the Maya covering us, we have allowed the Maya to cover us. Right, so we have. So that is our decision. Like you watch a movie, you can make a decision that this movie, I'm part of this movie, right? Or you can make a decision, I'm not. So we make this decision that yes, Maya is going to cover us, and is going through the agency of Maya. We're going to develop this attachment to our body. Part of the detachment, we also, regardless of how deeply we are spiritual, but the longer we spend time in our body, the more we start developing detachment from it. It's just the nature of how things are. That we begin to see that how we are completely different from the body. That the body is decaying, but we are not. The body has limitations, but those limitations are not our limitations. Once Prabhupada was sitting in a temple, and there was kirtan going on, and devotees were like, ecstatically Hare Krishna, jumping, and Prabhupada looking at it, and then, Prabhupada was an old person, and then he says, where is my dancing body gone? So, he was just saying that he used to have a body in which he could dance, and he can't dance anymore. So we automatically, just by the force of time, we get that realization. But if we take shelter of spiritual instructions, then it becomes much deeper, becomes a much deeper realization. But then at the same time, we just spoke about Yukt Vairagya, right? So in the same mood of Yukt Vairagya, our body is also something that we can use in the service of Krishna. So if we get detached from our body, it doesn't mean that we don't take care of our body, we don't take healthy food or nutritious food. We do all that, but not because we associate with the body, but it's just like it's something else that you have been given to serve Krishna. So in that mood, we take it. So as long as we can use the body to serve Krishna, it's great. If not, then we see what other way Krishna that we can serve Krishna. Yeah.
I just want a little clarification on here. When you're saying that, or Krishna is saying that material modes are the ones that are suffering or enjoying, then does that mean the material modes is our body, the material body that we talk about, like we are the spirit soul, and the covering is the material body, and then at the same time it's the material body that is behaving in a certain way because of the interactions with Sattva-gun, Rajagun or Tamagun, the three modes.
Mm-hmm.
So then, are they separate, the two things? How are they? How are we saying that the material modes are suffering or enjoying, rather than the material body suffering and enjoying due to the interactions, with the three modes?
It's a good question. So there is the gross body, and there is the subtle body. Right. So the gross body is what is basically interacting with the environment through the senses. Right. Krishna talks about the 10 senses, the 5 senses to acquire knowledge, and the 5 senses to work. The subtle body makes sense out of it. What is this? The gross body is not in a position to make a distinction. All that it is doing is that it is interacting. Right? If a food has a lot of chili in it, for me it's tasty, for you can't eat it. It's the same food, same senses, but the subtle body reacts differently to it. The subtle body is making this determination that this is good and this is bad. The whole duality is coming because of the subtle body. The subtle body is sitting right next to the soul. And because of that association, the soul thinks that it is suffering or it is enjoying. Right? But actually it's the subtle body that is anchoring this conception of duality. The mind captures the information from the senses, The intelligence discriminates, saying that this is good, this is bad. The ego takes that information and presents it to the soul, saying that this is the best thing for you or this is the worst thing for you. And because the soul is sitting right next to the ego, it is basically, or at least in a conditioned state, it is listening very carefully to whatever the ego tells it. That you're walking down the street and somebody is looking angrily at you, the ego tells you that this is your enemy. And the soul says, yes, this is my enemy. Whereas in actuality, the person has nothing to do with you and you have nothing to do with the person. Yeah, that helps?
So is it the soul who's thinking that it's an enemy or a friend, or is it the mind thinking that it's an enemy or a friend? Because soul is not supposed to get affected by any of the three modes or any of the thing. It is pure itself.
Yes.
It's eternal, blissful, and ever existing, right?
Yes.
So I'm a little confused over here then.
Yeah.
How are...
Yeah, Pyali will answer your question.
I was going to
Pyali
say,
has a question.
no, actually I had a question because in the answer you have not mentioned three modes of material nature.
Yeah.
Like you have talked about the subtle body and the gross body. The gross body is the one that actually perceives it, sends the signals, and the subtle body is the one that's interpreting those signals.
Yeah.
And by virtue of being very close to the soul also interprets it as similarly, just like the false ego interprets or the
Right,
mind interprets.
right.
But what are the three modes of material nature? Like Rajagita, that's just the point I did not.
Sure. It's a good point. You had a point to make, bro?
My it is explained.
No, go ahead. There's a discussion.
Yeah. My point is like material mind, material intelligence, and that was given when we come to the material world. So we acquire certain amount of material mind, and as we continue living in this world, we acquire the modes of material, the modes of nature to that mind. So it is our material mind is attached or covered with the modes of nature. That's why something I like may not be the liking for the other person because the modes of nature he is attached to. So in a way, our mind is driven by our past attachment with the modes of nature.
Okay.
So that way, actually, we are the product. We means our subtle body and gross body is a product of our material activities so far. I mean modes of nature.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts, comments?
Question. So how are animals different from humans? What is it that they don't have among these things that we discussed? They have a gross body,
They have a subtle body.
subtle body.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they always say that you have a human birth, a human being, you're different from an animal, you can distinguish, you have more intelligence.
Sure.
Intelligence. So
Sure.
how is it different?
Sure.
They don't have jnana.
Why don't they have gyan? I guess the question is.
And one more thing, you said when you were just married, your wife cried, sometimes you went to see a movie, you just thought it's just a movie,
Yeah.
But I look at it this way, that when she was crying, she was learning, getting gyan in all of that.
What kind of gyan?
Gyan means, for example, a movie is there for the son is working very hard, for a mother, just an example, and how hard he has to work, and that makes you kind of feel kind of sad, that at such a young age he had to work, and most of human beings will cry, when they'll see such a young kid is working so hard for a mother, but that's where you are learning the jnana, means that it's important to be, work for the mother, So you're getting jnana, you're learning something out of that movie, in my opinion.
The more you'll be involved, more you will learn.
More you learn, yeah.
So the impact will be more dramatic.
Yeah, more dramatic. Yeah, more.
Any other thoughts, comments? Precious?
Regarding the modes of material nature
Yeah.
discussion,
We have the question or comment. So, as Madhav is saying that what is the difference between an animal and human? I mean, we are told that we take several births and we may pass through several animal lives. So in that sense, aren't animals the same? We the same, except that probably they are less intelligent than us. Other than that, I don't see any difference.
Okay.
I think the consciousness of even if in human there are different level of humans. Without knowledge, human level of knowledge, human higher level who have practiced all the knowledges and they proved themselves and like moving to the bhakti.
Right.
Yeah, those kind of level differentiate. Even if different animal react to different things. Some animals are intelligent, so there is a whole entire chain of all the material world is divided into that way. Even if tree doesn't have any sense, even if he have a life, he can't even sense it. So that's how.
I think trees have sense. They react to the light. If there is no light, they will die. There is no water. So they all react. They do not react as the way we react. They can't show their emotions like we show that. But I think they have life, pretty much everything. They may not have pain, because there is no need for pain. So in evolution, they didn't develop the concept of pain. But some animals have the concept because it's required for their defense. So I think they are same, but the level of consciousness or the level of intelligence, at whatever you want to call it, is different. Even within humans, there are scientists and there are people who.
Yeah, even if there are some plants, if it touch them, they will react.
So all plants and animals have they react to the environment. But then the level of reaction, the level of consciousness is different. Even within humans, I think the level of intelligence is different.
Okay, good point. Yeah, you're making a point, Prabhu?
I was just going back to the discussion around connection between modes of material nature and suffering and enjoyment. So modes are in a way characteristic of the mind, of the subtle body. We choose to act in a certain mode. So it's related to the subtle body, and if we act in the mode of passion or ignorance, we are creating certain kinds of enjoyments or suffering. So that's kind of in my opinion, the connection between modes and material nature. It's a characteristic of the mind. We choose to act in a certain mode.
Right. So I think all the points that are made are very relevant, and they kind of, I guess, expose different aspects. So it's a slightly different concept to understand, not very difficult, but it's something that I guess Krishna speaks about in the 14th chapter exclusively on the modes of material nature. The modes of material, so Bhagavad Gita talks about 5 topics, right? The 5 topics that Bhagavad Gita talks about is the Jiva, Krishna, Karma, Kal, and the Prakriti, which is the modes of material nature. Of these 5 topics, the one topic that has the most number of verses devoted to it is Prakriti, the modes of material nature. It's very important for us to understand. And we got a little bit of understanding from our discussion that the modes of material nature they exist in the subtle body, and you can think of it as either a coloring or a covering of the subtle body. So the 3 modes of material nature, Prabhupada gives the example that think of them as 3 colors: red, green, and blue. And an artist can take these 3 colors and create infinite number of colors by mixing red and green and then blue and then mixing a little bit of red and blue. So in the same way, the 3 modes of material nature, the Satogun, the Rajagun, and the Tamogun, they, even though Krishna describes them for the purpose of definition separately, this is Satogun, this is Rajo, and this is Tamo, but actually they exist in combinations. And the combination of these 3 modes give us our Swabhav. So we have a particular nature, that I may like hot food, my wife may like bland food. I may watch a movie and not be affected by it, my wife may be affected by it. So we all have our swabhav, which is based on our modes of material nature, right? And the modes of material nature also cover our ability to interact with the material world. So if we have like a light source and we cover it with a dark color, then the light becomes very dim. It barely shines through. That's the position of the plants, that they are very strongly in the mode of ignorance. The level of consciousness that they have is very depleted. That it is only limited to survival. So somebody was making this point that they'll turn towards the sun, or they will send out their roots towards water, right? So everything that they do is limited only to the sense of survival. The animals are more stronger in the mode of passion. That the main conception that they have is kill or be killed. They are in that whenever they see somebody else, they go through this thing, that is this prey for me, or am I prey for this animal? And humans are in the mode of goodness. But having said that, it just means that they're predominantly in the mode of goodness. But in the Bhagavatam it is said that there are 400,000 species of humans, which again are determined by the particular combination of the modes that they have. They're siddhas and charans, and they're asuras and demigods and humans. So there's so many varieties of even amongst the manushas, the human species. There are so many varieties, all being determined by the modes of material nature, and the modes of material nature themselves are fluid. You get up in the morning, you are predominantly in the mode of goodness, because that's why it said that the morning time is good for spiritual activities, because at that time the mode of goodness is very strong. By the time it's night, you are most strongly in the mode of ignorance. That if you try chanting your rounds before you go to sleep, you'll see that one round will take forever to chant. And even though the clock time might be the same, it might still take 7 minutes to chant, but the 7 minute looks like 20 minutes at night, and it looks like 3 minutes in morning. Just because how the modes have changed over the day. As we age, the mode of goodness becomes more and more strong. So the modes in themselves are very dynamic, and they are, in a way, they are covering our mind and our intelligence, and they are filtering the information that we are getting, and they are also determining the action that we will do. You insult a person in the mode of goodness, and he might just smile and move away. Insult a person in the mode of passion, and he might insult you back. Insult a person in the mode of ignorance, and he might beat you up. So what we do is also determined by what is the mode that we are covered in.
Prabhu, I was going to suggest that you have a blackboard with white chalk to distinguish all these things. These are like so many final points are there in it that it would be nice to have the illustration.
Okay, maybe I'll prepare a PowerPoint, and then we can have a discussion on that. Okay. Questions, comments? Okay. So Krishna makes this proclamation to Arjun, and this is the second time he's making. In the third chapter, he had made the same proclamation. The verse that we learned in third chapter: Prakriti kriyamanani gunakarmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma karta ahamiti manyate. Everything is Prakriti kriyamanani. All activities are being done by Prakriti. Gunakarmani sarvasha. The gunas are actually active everywhere. So the reason Krishna is making this point over here is he wants to give Arjun two important realizations. One is the modes are very important. Don't trifle with the modes. because the modes will carry you up or the modes will carry you down. The modes can give you a divine life or the modes can give you a demoniac life. So don't trifle with the modes. So this whole sense of I was once having a debate / argument with one of my cousin sisters that why do you have to take a bath to go in front of the deities? That do the deities see, you yourself say that the body is not important, so they are seeing the soul, and then you're cleaning your body and going there. Why do you have to change clothes and do that? So you're establishing yourself more in the bodily conception. And the understanding is that while we are in the material world, we are subject to the modes. So it is to our advantage to understand how the modes work and use them to the best of our abilities. That when you take a bath, when you're shaucham, when you're suchi, when you're clean, it is easier for you to perform devotional service. So that's why we clean ourselves, we wear clean clothes when we go in front of the deities, because the deities are always pure. They can never get contaminated. We are the ones who can get contaminated. So we take a bath not for the pleasure of the deities, but so that we can serve Krishna better. So the more we understand that how the modes are manipulating us, the more we understand that how the modes are influencing us, we can, so to speak, turn the tables. Instead of us being manipulated by the modes, we manipulate the modes in order to help us serve Krishna. Right? And like I said, the modes is a it's a very elaborate topic. Almost all the verses that come in from 13th chapter onward talk about the modes of material nature. So believe it or not, this is where we ended last time. So we'll start we'll resume our discussion from verse 17. So verse 17 is, when one's intelligent mind, faith and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. So this verse is a little bit of what we would call an anchor verse, because it signifies Krishna's turning Arjun from material detachment to spiritual attachment. So you notice Krishna talks about 4 things: mind, intelligence, faith and refuge. So with mind and intelligence, you can develop material detachment. With faith and refuge, so refuge means sharanam, taking shelter. Right? So these are things that are more you do from the heart. When you say that I want to surrender unto you, you definitely think through it, but the action of surrender means that now what you tell is what is the truth for me. But now what you ask me to do, I will do. So that is the relationship of a devotee with the Lord. That the devotee takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna is so far he was talking about material detachment. In this verse he talks about both. He says mind and intelligence, faith and refuge. With material detachment and spiritual attachment, what is the result that Krishna is promising? Liberation. That very quickly a person will get liberation. So these set of verses from 17 to 26, Krishna describes the impersonal Brahman. So he uses the term at one place, but again you can see how careful Krishna is in transitioning Arjun over from matter to spirit, because this is where people lose themselves very often. That many times when they transition over from matter to spirit, they carry the material conceptions with them. So when they say Krishna is all powerful, what is the first thing they'll say? That if you are all powerful, give me some money or kill my enemies. So they carry the material conceptions over. It's like once a person went to Brahma and said Brahma that I hear you live a very long life. It's a kind of a joke. I don't think it actually happened. So he said, I heard you live a very long life. And then Brahma said, yes, I do. And so he says, how long is your life? He said, well, 1 second of mine is like 1,000,000 years for you. And so the person said, that's very good. So $1 million for me is like $1 for you? So Brahma said, yes, that is true. So he said, give me $1. Brahma says, in a second. So when we move over our material conceptions, then they go awry because they don't fit over there. So that's why Krishna, what he's getting Arjuna to transition over, that when we are in matter, we see the all pervasiveness of matter. Everywhere around us, we see matter. We see different life forms, plants, animals. We see different manifestations of matter, whether it is water or earth or sky or fire. In the Brahman conception, you see the Lord in matter. So what Krishna is saying is that all that you see around you, you see the Lord in that. So rather than just taking him completely away from the material conception and putting him in spiritual, which is dangerous because he'll carry this over, what Krishna is saying is this is the spiritual conception, see this in matter. When you see nature, when you see the rivers, in the Bhagavatam there is a very poetic chapter in which Sukadeva Goswami, he describes the universal form of the Lord, and he says that the rivers are his veins, and the trees are the hair on his body, and the mountains are his bones, and the sun and the moon are his eyes. So it's metaphorical, but the understanding is that because we have seen the sun and the moon, we have seen the rivers and the forest, after we study that, then we can say, okay, the trees are the hair of Krishna's body. So then we are able to relate to Krishna. So this is using matter to connect to spirit. We don't have to take literally. We don't have to say that every tree is a hair on Krishna's body, but we can relate it at least in that analogy that Sukadeva Goswami gives. So same thing what Krishna is doing here is he is introducing Arjuna now to the Brahman conception, that the impersonal conception of the Lord. Next verse. So this is an important verse to be memorized. Vidya vini sampanne brahmane gavyastini shunichev swapakecha pandita samadarshana. The humble sages by virtue of true knowledge see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So Krishna talks about 3 categories of living entities. He talks about a Brahman and a cow. They are in the mode of goodness. Talks about an elephant in the mode of passion. He talks about a dog and a chandal in a mode of ignorance. So essentially what Krishna is telling Arjuna is, do not see based on the modes of material nature. So he said the humble sage by virtue of knowledge. What is this knowledge? That you are covered by the modes of material nature, but you are not the modes of material nature. What is the difference between a Brahman and a Chandal? A Chandal is in the mode of ignorance and a Brahman is in the mode of goodness. But they are both jivas. They are both living entities. So Krishna is trying to develop this sense of discrimination in Arjuna, that do not get carried away by how matter is presenting spirit to you. Matter will always be distinct from spirit. So this is the Samdarshi verse. In this, Krishna also introduces a slightly higher realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is the Paramatma realization. So Krishna can be realized in three forms, which are three successively deeper spiritual realization. The Brahman realization is seeing the impersonal form of the Lord. That Krishna is the God is energy, He is everywhere, He is the light of the sun, He is the heat of the fire. So you see Lord as energy. That is the Brahma realization. The Paramatma realization is that you see the Lord in every living entity. That with every jiva, with every atma, there is a Paramatma. So that is, so the Paramatma has a form, no longer energy. Paramatma has a form. And higher than the Paramatma realization is Krishna's tu Bhagwan Swayam. Ete cham sakala pumsha Krishna's tu Bhagwan Swayam. Indrari vyakulam loka mridayante yuge yuge. So, one of the first things that in Bhagavatam it is, when we are introduced to Krishna, is Krishna's personal form. That Krishna's tu Bhagwan Swayam. Krishna is himself. So the personality of Krishna, not the energy, not the Paramatma, the personality of Krishna. Based on that personality, does the Brahman exist, and based on that personality, does Paramatma exist. So when one has an Atma realization, when one understands that one is not the body but the soul, one develops detachment from matter. When one has Paramatma realization, then one becomes equidisposed to everybody. So one sees not only the soul but also sees the super soul. There is actually a picture over here in which this humble sage is looking, and he sees two things in every living entities, or in this elephant and all. He sees the soul and he sees the super soul. And the real equality actually comes when you see the super soul in everybody. So without being very explicit about it, Krishna is gently introducing the concept of Paramatma, but he won't elaborate it on more. In the 6th chapter, he'll speak more about it. Yes, Priyanka?
How to not get confused with, particularly with this verse, with equality, because people who are not advanced to understand the conception, the bodily conception of life, would probably, let's assume an atheistic person reads this verse and he might have that vision, or he himself believes to be a firm believer in equality, and he reads this and he says, oh, I already follow this in my life. So how do you make, because I constantly deal with people like that in my personal life, my father for example. So it's very hard for me to make him understand, because he is so rooted in his own belief of equality that he feels that, and he's an atheistic person, so it's very hard for me to even get him closer to God. So how do I even try to...
Okay, so like when you say equality, so he believes that everybody is equal and God is also, everybody is God. The equality extends to the...
I am not sure what is his conception about it, but he believes that everyone should be treated equally.
Which is the right conception. Everybody should be. You see, Sam Darshana, understanding of equality is not that you see everybody as the same, but you don't get prejudiced by the differences. That is the real understanding of Samdarshana. So it's not that you see a snake and a deer, and you act the same way, that you try and hug the snake and the snake will bite you and you die. So that's not Samdarshana. But the difference is that you see the snake, but you don't get envious of the snake. You don't say this is a snake that is poisonous that might kill me, so let me go ahead and kill the snake, but the deer is good. So samdarshana is seeing the differences for what they are. The differences are essentially a manifestation of the different combination of modes of material nature. What you see where you see the similarity is that this is a spirit soul with a relationship with Krishna. That's the similarity that you see. The difference that you see is that this is a soul that is associating with a particular combination of the modes of material nature. The samdarshana means you see the difference, but it does not prejudice you. Right? So equality is not sameness. Right? Equality just means that you're not prejudiced by the differences. Yes, Prabhu?
Prabhuji, you mentioned that Paramatma feature, it is no longer impersonal, and here we are emphasizing that God is a person. But how exactly it is different from Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam?
So Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam is Krishna, one person. Right? Paramatma is, you have Paramatma, I have Paramatma, millions of living entities have Paramatma. So it is the localized personal form of the original personality of Godhead. Right?
Yeah. He's the expansion. Right?
The Paramatma is the expansion. Right. I think at some point they give this analogy that think of Paramatma as you're standing in a room and you're surrounded by mirrors, right? And there are millions of you around you. Ultimately, it's the problem with analogies is that they run out after a certain time. Right? You say if you're a mirror, then if I turn my hand, the mirror turns the hand. So the Paramatma is mimicking the personality of God, which is not true. But Krishna has that potency that he expands himself, and each one of us has Krishna as Paramatma in us. I think last time who was making this point, that maybe you were making this point, Avinash, that when you do something right or wrong, there is something in you that says, right, that this is right to do and this is the wrong. So Paramatma is Chaitya Guru. It's the Chaitya Guru. Chaitya is your consciousness, right? We may not listen to him, right? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But he's the one who's guiding you. So one of the chapters in the Bhagavad Gita is fully dedicated to understanding the Paramatma. Right?
I have one question. Like our soul, I think inside us there are two people keep talking to our soul. One is good soul. I don't know the name. I mean, there is good quality who always tell this is right, this is wrong, and take us a very good direction towards good consciousness. I mean, take from material knowledge, and some other thing is there to always bring us to the darkness. Who is that thing who is taking us always to the darkness? I mean, for example, if a 16 years, 17 year guy, you tell something, they might be in that stage. I also thought that let me enjoy. I mean, this is I can do this and that, so I can enjoy those kind of who is what kind of
It's a bit of a tussle between where the modes are taking you, and where either the soul or the super soul is taking you.
So there is soul and super soul, nothing else.
The what?
Nothing else.
Nothing else. There are only two sentient beings in this whole creation.
There is no bad guy who is always bad.
There's no really bad guy. We were having this discussion actually when once we were having this just a few weeks ago. I was in this Vaishnava Islam dialogue. So they have this concept of shaitan, right? That there is a person who's bad, whose only purpose of life is to take you bad. But in Vaishnava theology, there is nothing like that. Krishna is light. When you turn your back to Krishna, it is darkness, right? But there's nobody who's coming there, trying to make you turn. It's all your free will, right? Because if somebody, think of it this way, that if Krishna is light, and if somebody makes you go to darkness, that person becomes stronger than Krishna, right? Which means that person is God, because by definition, God, there's nobody stronger than God, right? So if somebody is able to defeat God, right, then that person is stronger than God. Now you can say that, but I'm defeating God because I'm turning my back. But you're defeating God because God has given you that free will, right? It's not that you're stronger than God, but He has empowered you, saying that I am going to allow you to do what you want to do. He can take away that free will also, but He does not, right? So it is ultimately us who makes this decision. Should I turn towards Krishna, or should I be bahirmukhi? Should I be turning away from Krishna? That helps. Okay. Next verse. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the condition of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and they are already situated in Brahman. So in the next set of verses, I'll go through them a little quickly, just from time perspective. Krishna, he describes the characteristic of the Brahman and the soul that takes to it. So essentially what he says is that Brahman is sameness, the lack of duality, the lack of attraction towards happiness or distress, honor or dishonor, heat or cold, whether it is material or emotional duality. It's moving away from it. This is a point that Krishna makes over and over again. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is sun-filled intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is always situated in transcendence. So again, the quality of non-duality in one who has Brahma realization. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. So after hearing the last verse, Arjun might say, if a person has no attachment to happiness or distress, then that life of the person is boring, because it's just going on like a straight line. But Krishna says no. The person is actually, instead of looking for all this outside, he has now turned inside. And this is what he'll say in the next set of verses, that everything that you're looking from outside are present within you. And the advantage of getting it from inside you is that you're not dependent on anything. Whether it is on some other person, whether it is on time, whether it is on some other facility. So the point Krishna is trying to make is, don't think that spiritual realization is near us. Sometimes people say that spiritual realization is just being devoid, neti, 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 just being devoid of everything else. He said no. Spiritual realization, the happiness is infinitely large compared to what you feel in the material conception. The source is different. You turn to matter for material happiness, you turn to spirit for spiritual happiness. An intelligent person does not take part in the source of misery, which are due to the contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So this is a verse that is explaining the same thing from the previous verse, but in the opposite way. The previous verse was that the person took pleasure in spirit. In here he is saying that an intelligent person does not take pleasure in matter. And the biggest drawback with matter is that everything that you get from it is temporary. It has a beginning, it has an end. Even Brahma, he has a very long life, but even he says that I take birth and I die. There's a pastime of Lomash Rishi, who had this benediction that every day of Brahma, which is very long, he would lose one hair on his body, and he would live for as long as he had hair on his body, and he had lots of hair on his body. And his disciples once came to him and said that let us build a bhajan kutir for you, so that you are protected from the elements when it is raining. And then Lomash Rishi said, I'm going to live for only a short time. Why take care of this temporary body unnecessary? So that realization that matter by nature, and we empirically get it also. As we go through life, we also see that so many things were sources, we thought were sources of our happiness, right? We'll come to America, we'll be happy. We came to America, we said if we get a green card, we'll be happy. We got a green card. If we get a citizenship, we'll be happy. We got the citizenship. We get a Mercedes, we'll be happy. We get a 4-bedroom house. Somebody was telling me that. So as you know, Potomac, lot of Indians, and somebody was telling me that people who live in Potomac, Indians, they have 3 criteria: house in Potomac, child in private school, full-time maid. Then they are happy. Full-time maid. So he said, then they're happy. And there's a person that I know. She's a massage therapist. She goes to so many of these houses, and people there are suffering so much. They're suffering from depression. They're suffering from just loneliness. They have and they have these 3 things. They're big houses in Potomac. The children have gone to private school and passed out and gone their own ways, and some of them have several maids. But still, so the nature of happiness is that it is always chapal. It will come and go. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material sense and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. So Krishna is making 2 points in a slightly subtle way. One, he says, is before giving up his present body. So he is indicating to Arjuna that this is a process that will take you a long time. So by the time you die, right? So Krishna is setting up Arjuna for bhakti, saying this whole process of forcibly detaching from the matter, this whole process of trying to see Krishna everywhere, it works, but it takes time. And then it says tolerate the urges. So what does that mean? That the urges are still there. You are tolerating them, right? The process of bhakti, it actually uproots these urges. But in this process, the urges are still there, and it will take your entire lifetime to be in a position when you can say that now I can tolerate these urges, right? So while Krishna is giving Arjuna the path, he is also cautioning that this is a path that requires a lot of commitment, dedication, and will take several lifetimes.
We're out of time now.
I just have a few verses to finish. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. So Krishna is again talking about the nature of a person who is Brahman realized. Everything is within, then not looking outside. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. So Krishna at this point, he is slightly moving Arjuna from Brahman realization to Paramatma realization. The big difference between Brahman and Paramatma realization is that in Brahman realization, the person works towards your own peace. That my happiness is inward, I am peaceful. In Paramatma realization, because you see the super soul in everybody, you try and serve the others also. So Krishna introduces this notion as who is working for the welfare of all living beings. So this is not working for their body, because Krishna has already negated the body conception. But still, it does not mean that if you don't see if you don't see the body, it doesn't mean that you see a person suffering and then say just your modes of material nature, just deal with it, right? Or you say that it's just your karma, deal with it. It comes and goes, so it will go eventually. Maybe you'll die, but that's okay. So it doesn't mean that you become callous or hard-hearted. But when you see the soul and the super soul there, then your desire to help and serve actually becomes more intense, because you are serving not the body, but you are serving that which lives in the body, the soul and the super soul. So Krishna is moving little bit Arjun to the notion of super soul, while he is introducing him to the Brahman realization. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. So here Krishna again, he gives the same set of qualities. They're free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring. So if you look at these words, Krishna is giving the requirements, but he's also indicating it's difficult, right? Because he's saying that free from anger and all material desires. Very difficult to be free from all material desires, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, 24/7, right? So he's saying that the path is there of Brahman realization, but it is difficult. But he wants to encourage, because there are some people whose by their nature they are only attracted to Brahman realization. They don't like individuality. They don't like dealing with people. They like this Om Shanti Shanti, right? Om is Brahman realization. So there's like Om, 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 just the Shabda Brahman. That's what they hanker for. So Krishna wants to allow them also to engage with the words that he has given in Bhagavad Gita to make advancement. So to encourage them again, he's saying that in the very near future. It's a little different. Earlier on he said that ultimately when you die, right? But he does not want the person to go away completely dispirited. That why should I do something that I will only achieve on my deathbed? So he wants to give some encouragement later on, Prabhu. So he wants to give him some encouragement also, that in the very near future. But the understanding is Krishna's near future is different from our near future. Time is different for Krishna and time is different for us, but it is there. So when Krishna says it is there, it is there. It will happen. Whether it takes 1 lifetime or 20 million lifetimes, it will happen. So 27-28 is Krishna's segue into the next chapter, which is the Astang Yuga. Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the 2 eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, sense, and intelligence, the transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, free and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. So what Krishna in this is given, what is the end state of a person who follows Astang Yoga? So Astang Yoga is the 8-fold yoga system that is explained by Patanjali in the Patanjali Sutras, right? So and again, so Krishna has done that. He has given a segue, and then he will expand in the 6th chapter. The last verse is again a verse that should be memorized. Bhuktaram Yagatapasama. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifice and austerities, the supreme lord of all plants and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material desires. So Prabhupada calls this the peace formula, that Surdam Sarva Bhutanam Shantim Mam Rachati. That's the only way that one can attain peace. So Arjun at this point might say that Krishna, you have told me so many things, right? In the 100 verses, you have given me the sense of material detachment, Brahman realization, speaking about Paramatma realization. What do I do? So Krishna in this, he says that Bhuktaram Yagatabasama. This is the person who follows the process of Karma Kand. So Bhokta is enjoyer. But when one sees that Krishna is the actual enjoyer. So Bhuktaram Yagatabasama Sarva Lok Maheshwara. So this is Krishna as the proprietor of all the loks. So we have Indra Lok and we have Shiv Lok and Devi Lok, all the loks. Krishna is the proprietor of it. Surdam Sarvabhutana. Who's the well-wisher for everybody? Krishna in the Paramatma form. When the soul comes down from the spiritual world to the material world, Krishna is so kind that he expands into the Paramatma form and accompanies the soul. So you can get an understanding of how compassionate Krishna is. That in the spiritual world we have rebelled against Krishna, saying that I don't accept you as God. Actually, I am God. And I'm going down to the material world to enjoy myself as God. Somebody else would have said, okay, go and suffer there. But Krishna says, it's a dangerous place to be in. Let me come along with you. Right? So that's why he says, Surdam Sarvabhutana. I'm the well-wisher of all living entities. So he talks about himself as the destination for all the paths. Whether it is karma, whether it is jnana, or whether it is astanga. Through astanga yoga, you get Paramatma realization. So he's saying that whatever path that you follow, whether it is karma, whether it is jnana, or whether it is astanga, then when you understand that I am the ultimate benefactor, that he says I am the ultimate bhoktaram, I am the ultimate benefactor, then only you will actually attain peace. Right? So he has again put into Arjun's mind this concept that all the paths will ultimately lead to him. So one must not get bewildered by seeing all the paths. One must understand that different paths are there because people have different propensities. It's not because Krishna has different propensities, because we have different propensities. So the different paths are there. We should not get bewildered by it, because ultimately they're all the same, because they all lead to one and only one place, which is Krishna. Yeah? So that ends the 5th chapter. So we can, while the kids are coming up, there are any questions, comments?
526, you mentioned that it is requirements. Requirements for what? And what is this verse is saying?
This is for Brahma Nirvana. Brahma Nirvana. This is for Brahman realization. Vikas, you may want to switch this off.